Hello, my dear students. Today we are going to start a really interesting, charming, and peace giving story. Hope rendering story. Hope rendering means a story which will give you some hope. But before we start this story, I want to discuss with you something really important. And I say it is important because it indeed is important. What I need to know from you is, do you believe that life is unfair with some people? Do you believe that while many people enjoy the delicacies of life sitting in their huge mansions, taking all the luxuries of life, enjoying everything life has to provide, some people live in pathetic conditions without even a continuous supply of clean drinking water? And do you think that something could be done to change this? If you go and ask people that do you think things can change, although many will say that yes, things can change and they can change for better, you will find people who will be puzzled, who will be hopeless, and they would say that we want things to change, we want to believe that things can change, but there seems to be no way. There seems to be no way in which they can change their things. Their poverty is so rampant that it paralyzes them. Their situations are so difficult that they think there is no way out. To such people, there is this story, a letter to God. But before we dive into this story, I again want to tell you about something really important. There is this story of Teria Tai. This seems to be an Indian name, but it is the name of an African woman. And I might pronounce her name wrongly, so I would rather call her the African woman while I tell you the story of that African woman. On the Oprah Winfrey Show, which is a world famous talk show which is made in the United States of America, which is hosted by an African American woman, one of the richest African American women in the world, Oprah Winfrey. On her show, this story of this African woman was told, and this story is bound to move you. Now let me tell you this story before we dive into this chapter. This story is about this African woman who was born in extreme poverty. They were not sure whether or not they would get to eat food the night of the day they ate food. If they were having food in breakfast, they were not sure if they would be able to have food in the night. Such was their poverty. But this African girl, this little girl, she wanted to get educated. She wanted to change her life. She wanted to go to school. When she got married, she got beaten up by her husband. She was never sent to school. For 2 months she went over there, and then soon she was married off to another man, to a man who used to violate her domestically, who used to beat her up. This African woman wanted to change her life. One day, she met a group of people who were there to tell her about the power of faith, the power of God. She told them that she wanted to get educated. She wanted to live in the United States of America. She wanted to get her education over there, do her undergraduation, do her post-graduation, get a PhD. That group of people who were there to tell them about the power of faith, they asked her to write everything down on a piece of paper. She did it. She wrote it down. And then her mother suggested her to bury the paper under a rock. And she told her that if there is any power in faith, if there is any power in God, things will change. And my dear daughter, you will break the vicious circle of poverty of our family. She did it. Years later, she got a chance to move to the United States of America. Their situations changed for her. She pursued her education. She got her undergraduate degree. She got her postgraduate degree. She did her PhD. Her life was changed. She was no longer poor. Her husband was deported from the United States of America back to Africa because of constant complaints of domestic violence. And her life was changed. Years later, she returned to her village in Africa. She found that rock. She dug under it and she found that piece of paper still there. That piece of paper, her faith had changed her life. Such is the power of faith. Believe in any God. You can believe in Jesus Christ, you can believe in Muhammad, you can believe in Sri Ram, you can believe in any number of gods we have in Hinduism. You can believe in anyone, and with your faith, you can change your life. Such is the power of faith. Now let's start reading this story, which is going to entertain you and which is going to tell you the power of faith. And you would be in the end asking, did God do this or did someone else? And then we will discuss what had actually happened. Let's start reading. The chapter is on your screen. Read it along with me. The house, the only one in the entire valley, sat on the crest of a low hill. From this height, one could see the river and the field of ripe corn, dotted with flowers that always promised a good harvest. The only thing the earth needed was a downpour, or at least a shower. Throughout the morning, Lencho, who knew his fields intimately, had done nothing else but see the sky towards the northeast. So this is the story of a farmer named Lencho, and he had a cornfield. His house was on the top of a hill. Crest, as mentioned in this corner of the paper. Crest means top of a hill. So he lived on the top of a hill, and from there he could see his field. It was full of cornflowers, and he was simply waiting for a downpour, a shower. He was waiting for monsoon. He was waiting for rain. He was waiting for it to rain. He was hopeful that as soon as it would rain, the field will start growing corn and it would be a good harvest. But did it happen? Now we are really going to get some water, woman. The woman who was preparing supper replied, "Yes, God willing." The older boys were working in the field, while the smaller ones were playing near the house, until the woman called to them all, "Come for dinner." It was during the meal that, just as Lencho had predicted, big drops of rain began to fall. So Lencho was standing outside his house. He was looking at the sky and he predicted that it was going to rain today. His wife said that God willing, if God wished so, it would rain and they would have a good harvest. And the woman called everyone inside the house to have dinner. Her older sons were playing in the working in the field, and the younger ones were playing outside the house. And all of them were called in for having supper, the last meal of the day. And as they sat to have it, it started raining, and those were big drops of rain, big drops of water. In the northeast, huge mountains of clouds could be seen approaching. The air was fresh and sweet. The man went out for no other reason than to have the pleasure of feeling the rain on his body. And when he returned, he exclaimed, "These aren't raindrops falling from the sky. These are new coins. The big drops are 10-cent pieces and the little ones are 5s. So it started raining. Lencho went out and he wanted to take the pleasure of rain. He wanted to let it rain on him. He wanted to feel the drops of water falling onto him. He saw that there were big, massive, mountain-sized clouds in the sky. He came back and he exclaimed, he happily declared that this is not rain, these are not raindrops, these are coins of 10s and 5s dropping from the sky onto us. Which means that Lencho was comparing the rain to a treasure. He was saying that it was not water that was pouring onto them, it was money, because this rainwater would get converted, it would help yield him a great harvest. that harvest would make him rich. With a satisfied expression, he regarded the field of ripe corn with its flowers draped in a curtain of rain. But suddenly, a strong wind began to blow, and along with the rain, very large hailstones began to fall. These truly did resemble new silver coins. The boys, exposing themselves to the rain, ran out to collect the frozen pearls. But suddenly things changed for Lencho. He was happy, he was celebrating. He regarded the field. Just like in India, farmers do this in front of their fields as a symbol of reverence, as a symbol of worship. He also did something and he came inside. But suddenly what happened? The rainwaters actually did convert into something like coins. Not into actual coins, but something as hard as coins falling from the sky. Hailstones, which are known as ola in Hindi, and those who are somehow related to agriculture, they know that hailstones or ola are not good, are not at all good for crops. They are destructive. They sabotage the entire hard work of the farmer. It destroys their year completely. His sons, they went outside. They wanted to collect the hailstones because they could not realize the gravity of the situation. They thought that it was fun. But Lencho knew what kind of misery was going to fall upon them. Their crop was going to be utterly destroyed. "It is really getting bad now," exclaimed the man. "I hope it passes quickly." It did not pass quickly. For an hour, the hail rained on the house, the garden, the hillside, the cornfield, on the whole valley. The field was white, as if covered with salt. Lencho prayed to God that the rain stopped, the hailstones stopped, the hailstorm stopped, but it did not. By the morning, his field was covered with snow, with ice, and this ice was not good for his crop. Not a leaf remained on the trees. The corn was totally destroyed. The flowers were gone from the plants. Lencho's soul was filled with sadness. When the storm had passed, he stood in the middle of the field and said to his sons, "A plague of locusts would have left more than this. The hail has left nothing. This year we have no corn." So the hailstorm left behind a destroyed field. The crop was completely destroyed. The flowers were destroyed. Nothing remained. Lencho was filled with sadness. His soul was filled with sadness. Go and ask a farmer when his crop goes wasted, when his crop is destroyed, how he feels. It is soul crushing. So Lencho was utterly sad, and he said to his sons that locusts would have left some crop, but the hail hasn't left anything. Now I want all of you to remember about locusts. There was a locust attack, an attack of locusts in the past few months. One locust attack was there in the news. Locust attack basically is known as Tiddi Dal Ka Hamla in Hindi. These are insects which attack suddenly. They eat away the crop. They destroy the crop completely and they go away. These days we have technologies to lead them away, to somehow get rid of them. But locust attack used to be extremely destructive for farmers. They used to kill the spirit of farmers in those days. So Lencho said that a locust attack would have been better. They would have at least left some crop, but this year we have no corn. Just try and imagine yourself in that situation. Put yourself in Lencho's shoes. I know some of you would be from the agricultural background, and you must be realizing how painful it would have been for Lencho. And those who are not from it, try to empathize with Lencho. Try to think that something you gave your heart and soul to for an entire year, expecting you to earn some money for your family, and that thing goes wasted like this. It happened with Lencho. That night was a sorrowful one. All our work for nothing. There is no one who can help us. we will all go hungry this year. This was the kind of conversation that went on in his house that night. But in the hearts of all who lived in that solitary house in the middle of the valley, there was a single hope: help from God. Just like the African woman whose story I told you before starting the story, there was this particular hope, this small little hope in their hearts, in the hearts of all those who lived in that house. I would like to tell you, my dear students, that it is said that if you have faith even of the size of a mustard seed is this small. If you have in you faith of the size of a mustard seed, it can change your life. It can give you strength in times of despair. It can give you hope in times of despair, in times of utter sorrow. And there was this hope in the hearts of those who lived in that solitary. Here the word solitary has been returned. Solitary means that lonely house, because there seemed to be no house near Lencho's house. His house was the only house over there on the top of that hill, that solitary house. Don't be so upset, even though this seems like a total loss. Remember, no one dies of hunger. Now this is such a hope-rendering sentence. Don't be so upset, even though this seems like a total loss. Remember, no one dies of hunger. And this is true. Although there are some parts of the world where children are dying of hunger and it is extremely painful. But on the major chunk of the world, on this planet, people do not die of hunger. Somehow their food is arranged. Who does it? This is a question that the answer to it all of us know, but some of us are not ready to admit. It is God who arranges food for us. Even in desperate poverty, in dire poverty, people do not go hungry. That's what they say, no one dies of hunger. All through the night, Lencho thought only of this one hope: the help of God, whose eyes, as he had been instructed, see everything, even what is deep in one's conscience. Conscience means an inner sense of what is right and wrong. It has been written over there in the side. Lencho kept on repeating the same thought in his mind all night. He kept on thinking that nobody dies of hunger, nobody dies of hunger, nobody dies of hunger, nobody dies of hunger. He knew that God is extremely powerful. God knows everything. You do not even need to go to God and discuss your problems with God. God knows everything. God knows what is there inside your heart. God knows everything. Lencho believed in it firmly. And when you believe in God, when you have faith, unmovable faith, that is when things start to change for you. Worshipping God every day as a routine does not render anything. Worshipping God once, but with entirety of your soul, with complete faith, without a shred of doubt, जरा सा भी संदेह ना होना. भगवान से एक बार मांग लिया, बिना एक बार भी संदेह के कि वो नहीं होगा, भगवान से मांगा है, होके ही रहेगा. With that entire faith, if you ask something to God, it happens. Lencho was an ox of a man, working like an animal in the fields, but still he knew how to write. Lencho was an ox of a man. This is a metaphor. Ox of a man. It's a comparison. Okay, please underline it. Ox of a man means he is being compared to an ox. An ox is a very hard-working animal. In Hindi we say kolhu ka bel. Someone who works very hard, we say na, wo to kolhu ka bail hai. In English, ox of an animal. So Lencho jo tha, ox of a man. Lencho was as hardworking as an ox. So, but he worked in the field, but he knew how to write. He was a little educated. He was literate. The following Sunday at daybreak, the Sunday that came after the hailstorm, at daybreak, with dawn, in the morning, with the sunrise, he began to write a letter, which he himself would carry to town and place in the mail. It was nothing less than a letter to God. On Sunday, he sat down, he wrote a letter, and that letter he addressed to God. He was not writing this letter to the government. He was not writing this letter to the mayor of the city. He was not writing this letter to the village panchayat. He was writing this letter to God. He was not writing a letter of help. He was not asking the mayor to help him. He was not asking the prime minister to send him money. He was writing this letter to the ultimate source of everything that is in this world, to God. God, he wrote, if you don't help me, my family and I will go hungry this year. I need 100 pesos in order to sow my field again and to live until the crop comes. Because the hailstorm, ... and he went on. So Lencho wrote in the letter that God, if you do not help me, I am going to die of hunger. My family is going to die of hunger. We do not. You surely don't want that. He believes that God does not want us to die of hunger. God is our Father, God is our friend, God is our God. God loves us. So he wrote clearly in the letter his problem, his situation, and he demanded an accurate amount. He did not write, I need some money. He did not write, I need a very little amount. He wrote 100 pesos. In those days, it was a good amount. Do not shy away from asking for anything from God. He wrote that he needed 100 pesos to live, to survive, to sow his field again, and to wait for the crop to come. He wrote to God on the envelope, put the letter inside it, and still troubled went to town. At the post office, he placed a stamp on the letter and dropped it into the mailbox. So what did Lencho do? He did a wonderful thing. On the letter, you don't know the address of God. You do not know the address of God. You know the address of your mayor. You know the address of your prime minister. You know the address of your chief minister. But of God, you do not know the address. So he simply wrote on it, to God. And on the envelope, he wrote to God. He posted his letter. He slipped his letter into that envelope. He went to the city. He went to the post office, took a stamp, and posted the letter. One of the employees, who was a postman and also helped at the post office, went to his boss laughing heartily and showing him the letter to God. Never in his career as a postman had he known that address. So when the postman came and opened the box to collect the letters, this is the process of working at a post office. You drop letters, the postman collects the letters, they take the bunch of letters, the bundle of letters to the post office. There those letters are segregated according to the address. Different postmen are given those letters. A postman going to a particular area is given all the letters of that area. Another postman going to another particular area is given the letters of that area. So this is how a post office works. So this postman collected all the letters posted by people in the mailbox. He opened the bundle and he found this letter to God. He started laughing. He rushed to the post office. He went to the officer. He had never seen such a letter. He had never seen a letter addressed to God. The postmaster, a fat, amiable fellow. Amiable means friendly fellow. So the postmaster was a fat but a very friendly fellow. Also broke out laughing. But almost immediately, he turned serious and, tapping the letter on his desk, commented, "What faith! I wish I had the faith of the man who wrote this letter, starting up a correspondence with God." So the postmaster first laughed, because that's your first reaction to such things. First he laughed, but then he turned serious and he put the letter and tapping the letter, he said, "What faith!" He was really appreciating the man who had written the letter. He was appreciating Lencho. He said, "What strong faith this man has. I wish I had such a strong faith." The postmaster wished to have such a strong faith to start a correspondence with God, to start writing to God. People say that they believe in God, but then they do not ask for things as if they are asking to God. I'll like to have a conversation over here, although I know you can't respond, it's a video. But think for your own life or for the people around you. आप लोग कहते हैं हम भगवान में मानते हैं, your parents say they believe in God, but then what are they asking for? They ask to God, "God, please get my loan repaid in 10 years. 10 साल में मेरा लोन चुक जाए बस." You are asking to God. If you truly believe that there is a God, if you truly believe that the God is so powerful, Why would you ask for 10 years to pay your loan? To repay your loan, you can say to God, God, do some miracle. I want to be out of this debt within 6 months. When in poverty, people ask to God, God, somehow send me 10,000 rupees this month. I need 10,000 rupees because I need to pay the college fee of my son. 10,000 rupees, the God who created this universe, you're asking for 10,000 rupees from that God. And even after asking for 10,000 rupees, people do not believe. They think that how will it come? They ask for it once in a month, in the morning or in the evening or when the problem arrives, and then they start worrying. And as soon as you start worrying, God knows that you do not have complete faith in Him. Because those who have complete faith in God, why would they worry? अगर मैंने भगवान से बोल दिया कि मुझे कुछ चाहिए, फिर तो वो मिलके रहेगा, फिर मुझे उसमें भरी करने की क्या ज़रूरत है? अगर मैंने चिंता करने शुरू कर दी तो भगवान सोचेंगे अरे यार ये मुझ में पूरा विश्वास रखता नहीं है, रखता होता तो चिंता नहीं कर रहा होता, अब ये मुझ पे विश्वास नहीं रखता तो मैं इसकी मदद कैसे कर दूँ? God needs only one thing from you: strong, unmovable faith on which you do not doubt. So Lencho had done this. A simple-minded man did this very wonderful thing. So in order not to shake the writer's faith in God, the postmaster came up with an idea: answer the letter. But when he opened it, it was evident that the answer he needed something more than goodwill, ink and paper. But he stuck to his resolution. He asked for money from his employees. He himself gave a part of his salary, and several friends of his were obliged to give something for an act of charity. So what did the postmaster do? He hadn't opened the envelope till then. He said that, okay, this man has written a letter to God. Let's not shake his faith. What is the meaning of shaking his faith? If you have asked something to God and it does not arrive, your faith goes down a little. You think that God is not responding. So the postmaster said that if this man has sent a letter to God and the letter is not replied to, if he does not receive a letter from God in return, the man would think that God does not exist or that God is not interested. So the postmaster said that we will respond to this letter. We will write a letter back to him as God. We will write a letter and we will sign as God. We will say that God has returned this letter to you. But when he opened the envelope, he understood that only words would not do. Only good words, goodwill would not do. Money was needed. If Lencho is asking for 100 pesos from God and God writes a letter that I am with you, that won't work. Lencho would think that God is not helping me. They needed to send him some money. They started collecting the money. His employees gave little money. He himself contributed to it from his salary. He asked his friends to donate for this charity. And they collected some money. How beautiful this is. Just try and imagine. This man, postmaster, is not helping Lencho's family. He is not simply helping Lencho's family. He is trying to maintain Lencho's faith in God. And that is the most wonderful thing you could do in world. Because if I help you with money one day, I come to your house and I give you money, you will be held for a month. But if I make your faith stronger somehow, that faith will help you go through your entire life without any worry, without any problem. Your faith will keep on solving your problems. I am telling you from my own point of view, beta. Try to have faith, try to have strong faith. This faith will change your life. It will entirely change your life. It was impossible for him to gather together 100 pesos. So he was able to send the farmer only a little more than half. He put the money in an envelope addressed to Lencho and with it a letter containing only a single word as a signature: God. So he could not collect 100 pesos. Whatever money he could collect, he was somewhat more than half the money required, yani about more than 50. It was 70 pesos. He put the money in the envelope. He put a letter, and on the letter only one word was written: God, which means that God has sent you this money. The following Sunday, Lencho came a bit earlier than usual to ask if there was a letter for him. It was the postman himself who handed the letter to him, while the postmaster, experiencing the contentment of a man who has performed a good deed looked on from his office. I'll read it again. I made mistakes while reading it. Let me read it again. The following Sunday, Lencho came a bit earlier than usual to ask if there was a letter for him. It was the postman himself who handed the letter to him, while the postmaster, experiencing the contentment of a man who has performed a good deed, looked on from his office. So, the Sunday that came after, Lencho came to post office asking for a letter. He came and asked that if there is any letter which has come for him. कोई letter आया है क्या उसके लिए? The same postman who had given the letter to the postmaster gave this letter, this envelope filled with money and one word God, gave this letter to Lencho. And the postmaster was in his office. He was feeling satisfied. He was feeling contentment of having done a good deed. Postmaster was feeling that yes, today I have done such a good thing. This man would be so happy on discovering the money. Lencho showed not the slightest surprise on seeing the money. Such was his confidence. How beautiful this is and how accurate this is. People who believe in God, they are not very much surprised on receiving things from God. I am dead sure about this. I am so sure about this. People who believe in God, who have such strong faith in God, they will see miracles happening in their life almost every day. And for a normal person, if a miracle happens, they are like, oh my God, this happened for me. But for a person who has strong, immovable faith, for such a person, when something great happens, they are thankful, but they do not show surprise. They expect miracles to happen because they know that there is God who is listening to us, and if I have asked God to do this for me, this thing is going to happen. They are not shocked, they are not surprised, they are thankful indeed, but they are not at all surprised. And Lencho also had such strong faith, such confidence in God, that on seeing money he was not surprised. He was not like, oh my God, did God really respond? He knew it was going to happen. But he became angry when he counted the money. God could not have made a mistake, nor could he have denied Lencho what he had requested. But when Lencho counted the money, he found that it was not 100 pesos. It was not the complete amount. And could God send him lesser money than what Lencho had requested? That's strange. God who created this world, if you go and ask him for 100 pesos, is God going to bargain with you? Is God going to say, नहीं आज मेरे पास 70 ही है, 70 लेके जा, कल 30 लेके जाना बचे हुए? God is not going to do that. So if God had sent money to Lencho, it was supposed to be 100 pesos, but this was 70 pesos only. Now you would think that Lencho could realize, Lencho को शायद समझ में आ जाएगा कि ये पैसा भगवान ने नहीं भेजा है, ये पैसा ना इन लोगों ने कलेक्ट किया या कहीं और से आया है. शायद लेंचो को समझ में आ जाए, पर लेंचो के साथ ऐसा नहीं हुआ. लेंचो का तो इतना ज़्यादा फेथ था गॉड में. Immediately Lencho went up to the window to ask for a paper and ink. On the public writing table he started to write, with much wrinkling of his brow, caused by the effort he had to make to express his ideas. Lencho ने ये नहीं सोचा कि इन लोगों ने पैसा रखा है इसलिए कम है, या लेंचो ने ये नहीं सोचा किसी और ने पैसा भेजा होगा इसलिए कम है. लेंचो को तो ये पता था कि भगवान ने ही पैसा भेजा है. His faith was so strong. He went to the desk. उसने बोला, give me a paper and pen, and he started writing. And he was really angry. He wanted to put out all his frustration and anger on the paper. His brow was wrinkling. Brow means eyebrows were wrinkling again and again, like this, while he was writing. When he finished, he went to the window to buy a stamp, which he licked and then affixed on the envelope with a blow of his fist. बड़े गुस्से में he went to the window, he took a stamp, he licked it, and he put the stamp on the envelope and he put his fist over it to get it affixed. उसको चिपकाने के लिए he put a fist. He was not gentle anymore, he was very angry. The moment the letter fell into the mailbox, the postmaster went to open it. Postmaster was looking at all this from the window, from his office. As soon as Lencho put the mail in the mailbox and went away, the postmaster came out and he opened the envelope. It said, God, of the money that I asked for, only 70 pesos reached me. Send me the rest since I need it very much. But don't send it me through the mail, because post office employees are a bunch of crooks. Lencho. So Lencho had written in the letter that God, I have received only 70 pesos. The rest of 30 are missing. Please send them to me as soon as possible. But do not send them to me via the post office. Do not send it to me via mail. Why? Because these people are crooks. Crooks means bad people, scamsters. They have taken away 30 pesos from the money that you sent me. So the very people who had helped Lencho were being accused of theft, because Lencho could not think that God did not respond. Lencho's faith was so strong, he could not consider that God didn't send him money and these people had given him money. The first idea that came to his mind was that God sent me 100 pesos because I asked for it. But these scamsters in the post office, they have taken away my money. Such bad people these are. So the very people who helped him became scamsters, crooks in his own mind. But although this is a funny ending and it's an imaginary story and the post office people would have felt bad on this, but still this is a testimony, this is an evidence, this is a proof of how strong was Lencho's faith in God, that he could not even for a moment consider that God hadn't sent him money. Is this clear to all of you? I hope it is clear to all of you. And now I want all of you to think for once. I know some of you must be thinking that God didn't send the money. Come on. The postmen, the post office people sent the money to Lencho. God wasn't there. But I want all of you to consider this for a moment. Who inspired these post office people to help Lencho? Maybe it was God who spoke, who whispered in the postmaster's ears or heart that help this fellow. This fellow has faith in me. Help him. Send him the money. So maybe it was only God who had actually helped Lencho. Sorry, I forgot to turn the page at that time. I was engrossed in reading the story. I hope all of you enjoyed the story and all of you could learn something from Lencho about the power of faith. And I know I have taken a lot of time. I would end the class, but this is the only thing I have to tell you again, and I cannot stress it too much when I say have faith in God and have very strong, without any doubt, faith in God. In whichever God you worship, just have such strong faith, have a complete belief which cannot be shaken, and look how your life changes, how it goes from here to here. This is the power of faith. Have a nice day.